Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Man and woman mowed down along Sir Florizel Glaspole Boulevard in Kingston. Driver in custody. Farmers to see boost in assistance from Agriculture Ministry this year. And later in sports, the inaugural Grand Slam Track League begins today at the National Stadium. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kerry-Ann Simpson. Here are the details. A man and woman are dead after they were mowed down along the Sir Florizel Glaspole Boulevard in Kingston sometime after 6 this morning. Their identities have not yet been released. Commanding Officer for the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, Assistant Commissioner Dr. Gary McKenzie, says the preliminary investigation suggests that the motorist was speeding.
What we gather is that a Toyota motor car was heading towards Harbourview. When on reaching the vicinity of Bayshore, the driver of the motor car failed to maintain course on the roadway. The vehicle exited the road and hit two adults, a male and a female. They were seriously injured and taken to the hospital. Unfortunately, they have been pronounced. The driver is in our custody.
ACP McKenzie says the motorists did a breathalyzer test, however, it returned negative. Additionally, he noted that the driver was previously convicted for excessive speeding and no motor vehicle insurance, which are breaches of the Road Traffic Act. As the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency MOCA investigates a multi-million-dollar phishing scam at the National Commercial Bank NCB, the bank has enhanced its cybersecurity. At a recent Crime Stop partnership signing, the bank outlined a number of initiatives it is undertaking. Shamila Pullen reports.
The banking sector in Jamaica continues to grapple with a surge in internet banking fraud involving credit and debit cards. The increase in cybercrime is now becoming one of the biggest threats to the financial sector. This has prompted urgent responses from banks like the National Commercial Bank and regulators. Currently, the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency MOCA continues to make significant strides in its investigation into a multi-million-dollar phishing scam at NCB. As part of its efforts to combat cybercrime, officials from NCB have stated that they are reinforcing their security systems to prevent future incidents.
Lowering daily limits and by reducing the amount that cybercriminals can withdraw or transfer from compromised accounts. Our block/unblock feature, which is available both on credit and debit cards, which gives our customers the ability to control whether their cards are active or inactive, thereby giving them greater control over the security of their cards. Two-factor authentication, the use of RSA tokens, which enhances the account security and also reduces the fraud risk of doing online transactions.
The bank has emphasized its commitment to a zero-tolerance policy towards both internal fraud and external online threats.
We have hosted impactful events such as our Think Like a Hacker and Reward for Online Safety Symposiums, both online and on our YouTube pages. And these are held with smaller cybersecurity sessions, providing valuable insights both to our customers and stakeholders on identifying and mitigating online threats. Other customer education initiatives, such as our campaign, such as Think Before You Click.
Meanwhile, NCB officials have vowed to remain vigilant, continuing their investigation into ongoing fraud cases as part of their broader strategy to safeguard customer assets and trust.
And we stand by our customers with transparent investigations and policies for fraud cases, reimbursing losses when no customer action has contributed to fraud. So NCB's consistent focus is on maintaining trust, advancing security measures, and fostering a culture of vigilance. Together with our partners like Crime Stop, we're committed to creating a secure financial ecosystem.
Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.
Indicom is calling for the police high command to consider using its data on the number of fatal shootings to review the circumstances which have led to the incidents. It comes as the Commission has reiterated its call for body-worn cameras. Details in this report. In 2024, there were 189 fatal shootings involving the security forces, up from 155 in 2023. Up to April 2 this year, there have been 85 fatal police shootings. Head of the Independent Commission of Investigations, Indicom Hugh Faulkner, says those figures are high.
Our Constitution and our Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedom list the right to life as the first right that was listed in Section 13 was the right to life. Now, we are not saying that there are not instances when the security forces may not act in a particular way, because the same law for self-defense that is available to the citizen, to you as a JP, to the technician, to everybody, is the same law of self-defense that is available to the law enforcement bodies.
He says while the Commission is unable to comment on individual cases, based on the data, there are concerns.
When we look at the data, at the end of March, which is just a few days ago, 81 persons were fatally injured. And we reached 81 in 2023 in July. And now we are at the end of March, we are at 81. So that is the concern.
It is why he is again calling for the use of body-worn cameras by the police during their operations.
We're saying the security forces can review their activities to decide whether something can be done differently to ensure that there is less loss of life.
In the meantime, Justice Minister Delroy Chuck has expressed support for the police, asserting that a significant amount of police fatal shootings were justifiable.
Evidence so far has not demonstrated until evidence is collected that anyone was unjustifiable, and if it is unjustifiable, Indicom has played its good role in demonstrating who should be charged if they go beyond the use of reasonable force in the circumstances. So this government certainly support Indicom because they do appropriate, proper investigation to ensure that the police act within the rule of law.
Amid concerns about a lack of affordable housing for tourism workers, the government says plans are afoot to address the issue. Speaking at the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean UCC on Wednesday, State Minister in the Tourism Minister Delano Sivrite said some major hotels have already begun construction of housing units for workers.
Yeah. And what we're doing now, they are now saying, okay, the big hotels, we had discussions with them over the years and intensified those discussions. And Princess already is out of the ground with over 500 apartment units for workers. Grand Palladium has committed to building proper apartment units for workers. Bahia Principe has also committed to proper apartment units for workers, and these are really nice facilities. And other major hotel developments that are coming on streaming.
Mr. Sivrite insists the government has listened to the plight of the workers and is moving to provide security for members of the sector.
I want to highlight that just under $4 billion is now in the tourism workers pension scheme, and we have 10,000 workers already signed up, enrolled in our tourism workers pension scheme, the first in the world. So that's great news again for Jamaica. Because we want to ensure that persons who come into the space understand that there's a sense of security in the space, and that's important.
Head of the National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA, Audley Gordon says in a few years, Jamaica should see significantly less solid waste being sent to landfills. He says additional enforcement staff at the NSWMA will help push a policy shift that will focus on composting and recycling island-wide.
That in another 5 years, you will not have need for so much trucks, nor so much acres of land being dedicated to wasting in a landfill.
He noted that about 8% of the solid waste that turns up at landfills are plastic, much of which are currently being repurposed at Recycling Partners of Jamaica.
67 to 70% of what we currently pack on a truck, drive miles to a disposal site to bury, is compostable material. Look at the amount of farmlands we have over in Jamaica. Look at the amount of people still involved in farming, in flower gardening and so on. Were we to get the composting culture going, a significant percentage of that garbage would not leave the source.
Farmers will see a boost in assistance from the Agriculture Ministry this year. That's according to Agriculture Minister Floyd Green. O'Shane Masters has the details.
The effects of climate change continues to rock the country's agricultural sector. Last year, both drought and increased weather events such as Hurricane Beryl cost the sector millions of dollars. But Agriculture Minister Floyd Green says concerted efforts are being made to address at least one of those issues: drought.
We can't just complain about drought. We have to prepare for drought. So we have a program, farmers, that if you have a group of you and you identify an area in your community that would be good for us to establish a pond, a catchment area, we will come and establish a pond for you free of cost. Because what we want is to ensure that when the rains come, we capture the rains so that when the drought comes, we have the water that we can use.
He reiterated the need for the modernization of the agriculture sector and redevelopment of farm roads.
I don't have to tell you about the problems with labor. We all know that labor is hard to come by. So what it means is that we have to modernize. Small tractors, bigger tractors, using the equipment out there to ensure that you are more efficient. And we're going to continue that work. Additionally, one of my big focuses has been on farm roads. Because the reality is that as much tools as we may want to give you, as much seedlings as we may want to give you, if you can't reach to your farm, it don't make no sense.
In the meantime, Mr. Green says the story of agriculture must be told.
We have to share the fact that if you do agriculture properly, you can make money. It is not easy. It is high risk. It is hard work. But if you do it well, you can take care of yourself and your families. So we are going to be doing a Thank a Farmer campaign. And that is what we're going to be pushing for this month.
Mr. Green was speaking at the launch of Farmers Month on Thursday. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
And it's time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. It's now time for the Business Minute.
President of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, Metri Siaga, is warning of the challenges Jamaica may face in diversifying its exports to the Global South following the 10% tax on exports to the U.S.
Moving south, it may be not as easy as it seems or is purported to be. There are language barriers which, we'll have to address. There are, in many countries, we don't have the trade agreement that we have with the USA at this time. So there are duties and taxes into many of the countries south of us. So I think what we need to do is we need to just step back for a moment.
Further afield, China announced additional tariffs of 34% on U.S. goods on Friday, the most serious escalation in a trade war with President Donald Trump that has fed fears of a recession and triggered a global stock market rout. in the standoff between the world's top two economies. Beijing also announced controls on exports of medium and heavy rare earth minerals to the US. It also added 11 entities to the unreliable entity list, which allows Beijing to take punitive actions against foreign entities. For the Business Minute, I'm Shane Masters.
Time now for the top stories from around the world.
In the region, the government of Trinidad and Tobago is assessing the likely impact of the recently announced tariff regime by the United States. The Twin Island Republic was slapped with a 12% tariff. Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Stuart Young, says dialogue is to be initiated with U.S. representatives to understand the extent of the announced tariff. On the international scene, South Korea's highest court has removed embattled President Yoon Suk-yeol from office, ending months of uncertainty and legal wranglings after he briefly declared martial law in December and plunged the nation into political turmoil. The court's decision on Friday marks Yoon's formal dismissal from the presidency after Parliament voted to impeach him late last year. His removal takes effect immediately, meaning he must now leave the presidential residence and will trigger an election to replace him. And U.S. President Donald Trump says he's very close to brokering a deal to find a buyer for TikTok, which faces a U.S. ban if its Chinese owner does not sell the app by the weekend. A bipartisan law passed by Congress last year mandates TikTok's Chinese parent company ByteDance sell the app. The platform went dark for a day in January in the US after the law took effect until Trump intervened and delayed the ban until April 5. The US government has said TikTok poses a threat to national security because Chinese authorities might access its vast trove of user data, which Beijing denies. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Raquel Porto.
And we head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report. And we apologize for the abrupt interruption in our midday sports report. And that concludes the midday news package. I'm Kerry-Ann Simpson. Join us at 7 for the primetime news. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.